morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Monmouth County. My name is Jen DeVries. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I serve, as I'm sure you all know, the chair of Community Life. And I want to say thank you to everybody that keeps it going. We're doing a great job. There's always food. Love all the interaction with family ministry. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. Our mission is to create community, transform ourselves, and transform the world. I'd also like to welcome Jennifer Lewinsky and Derek Mino-Bloom of the Asbury Park Transformation Justice Project. I draw your attention to the backside of the orders of service for announcements and for service information for next week. For those on the live stream and video viewers, the order of service link is available in the YouTube service description box. After the service, we of course have coffee hour in the community room for people of all ages are welcome. If you are new to us, please visit our website at uucmc.org where you can sign up and get all the latest news of the congregation by email. We look forward to getting you to know you better. And please put your devices on silent as we go into worship together. Welcome again to this place of love and hope.
Good morning. My name is Michelle McKenzie-Creech. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I serve this congregation as the Lifespan Director of Faith Development and Family Ministry. In 2017, At the annual assembly of Unitarian Universalists, called General Assembly, Bryan Stevenson told Unitarian Universalists that there were 4 essential things that we must do to create a just and equal world. Stevenson is a public interest lawyer, founder and executive director of the Equal Justice Initiative. He said to UUs that we must get proximate to those experiencing poverty, exclusion, and neglect. Our congregation's theme for November is generosity, and in this service, we'll explore the transformative power of generous hope. A hope that propels us to step closer, to be present, and to truly see the struggles of fellow human beings. Stephen's second imperative calls us to change the narratives that underlie racism and other inequalities. Stories shape our understanding of ourselves and the world. And narrative can either perpetuate injustice or inspire profound change. As we embark on this journey, we carry Stevenson's third directive in our hearts to stay hopeful about creating justice. That's hard to do sometime in the face of challenges. We must anchor ourselves in the belief that our collective efforts can sow seeds of transformation, fostering a world where justice is not just an ideal, but a lived reality. And lastly, we embrace the call to be willing to do uncomfortable things, acknowledging that growth and progress often emerge from the discomfort of breaking free from ingrained patterns and stepping into uncharted territories. If we want to make the world a better place, we have to be willing to take a look at ourselves and make a change. Today, I'll share stories and lessons from my recent experience volunteering as a chaplain for Trinity Episcopal Church's social and food justice programs in Asbury Park. I'm also honored to have with us Derek Minnow Bloom, who was my site supervisor at Trinity, as well as Jennifer Lewinsky. Both Derek and Jennifer are co-founders of this month's Share the Plate organization, Asbury Park Transformative Justice Project. And also, I hope that David Anderson, a member of the Asbury Park community, will be able to make it here this morning to share some words of wisdom and hope. Our call to worship is called Weavers of One Story by Reverend Leah Angiri. Here we are together, each facing our different human tasks, or maybe the same central one, to embrace the lessons life delivers, to discern and respond as we grow, to refuse harm and cherish flourishing. May we know ourselves as vessels of infinite possibility, holders of each other's heartaches and tales of joy alike, weavers of one story in which we are a part. Invite Patricia McCarran and Elle Vandeleur to light our chalice this morning. Our chalice lighting words come from the Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto. They're called Spilling the Light. The light, our chalice, sorry, there's a little ladybug up here saying hello this morning. We'll just put him on the plant over here. Okay. We light our chalice in the spirit of these words by Unitarian Universalist minister Julian Jamaica Soto. Some people are used to keeping the rules. Don't cross the street when the light is red. Only sensible. It turns out that keeping rules isn't the same as keeping covenant, which asks us, instead of keeping a bright line, to keep our promises. To what have we promised ourselves? To this moment in time and place, to this community, and even tenderly interconnected this planet. We promise ourselves to the idea that we are each and all human beings. We promise there is something moving between us that we cannot measure. The chalice is a reminder that the flame that we keep inside ourselves cannot light the way. The light must spill to shine. The thing that you must be is yourself, unadulterated, shedding the willingness to journey alone as though you are made of something hard and unforgivable. You are human. You belong right here, right now. And together we will chase away the sickness, the secrets, and leave only the open possibility that the future is a space for growth. Thank you both. Our opening hymn is number 298. The words will be on the screens, or you can use a hymnal. Wake now my senses, please rise in body or spirit. So we begin by drawing a circle along the ground. If you imagine it, I actually wanted to do this exercise by calling the kids up and having them draw circles on the ground with chalk, but then I figured that wouldn't go over very well with our carpet. So we're going to use our imaginations today. We're going to begin by drawing a circle on the ground along each shoe. A safe little place for just one person, nobody in the circle with you. So imagine yourselves drawing a circle around yourself. Now, you could keep the circle closed, everyone but yourself, but that would be like a library with just one book on the shelf. So we draw the circle bigger for you and your family to share. And so imagine drawing another circle around the one that you've already drawn, and in that circle is your family, your friends. And now we can see all that can happen in this circle full of care becomes a happier circle as more loved ones come to stay. And wouldn't it be even better if all your friends could come and play? So we stretch the circle even bigger. We draw a third one around, and we invite a few more people in and let them know how welcome they are. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference that we can make with the love that we all show. Yet there are so many circles, there are so many outside the circle who are different in all they do. Though it feels slightly uncomfortable, we draw a bigger circle for them too. So we draw a bigger circle and we invite more people in. Now, it doesn't mean that this is going to be easy. It can get harder the more we share. Wonderful things can happen when love is known and felt everywhere. As time passes, our eyes open, we see others we really care for. And that's when we ask ourselves, what's the circle really there for? So let's make bigger circles all around us for the rest of our days. Let our caring ripple out in a million little ways. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make with the love that we show. And so, in this, I invite you to continue to widen the circles. This service today, part of it is about proximity. It's about being people with people who are different than us. And then through that, we learn and we grow. But we can't do that if we don't enlarge the circles, if we don't invite everybody in, if we don't make room for all. And when we do, we make a difference. And so our story ends. And now our children and youth are going to go off to their faith development small groups. Let's bless them with "Go now in peace." And now I want to invite Derek and Jennifer to the pulpit to share with you a search for meaning about their work with the Transformative Justice Project.
Hello, greetings everybody. My name is Derek.
And I am Jennifer. We're co-founders of Asbury Park Transformative Justice Project. I talked with Michelle for a really long time yesterday about this changing the narrative and how our project fits into the idea of changing the narrative. And that's really why we came together to form what we lovingly call TJP, because it is a very long name. And we came together as organizers and activists because we, as organizers and activists, see so much cruelty and anger and sadness, and we sit around even when we're supposed to be having fun and and talk about finding solutions to so many things that just make us sad and very often confused about the world. Some of the things we do are offer alternatives to policing, alternatives to hierarchical structures, teaching and learning with organizations how to come together as community and solve problems. That's what transformative justice is. We come together to solve problems rather than calling someone else to solve our problems. An example I very often use is, because Asbury Park is gentrifying, almost finished being gentrified. If your neighbor's music is too loud, get to know your neighbor and have a conversation rather than calling people with guns to knock on their door because their music is too loud, right? There are a lot of very simple solutions to really huge problems, right? Because we know that very often police are dangerous, depending on who your neighbor is, right? So your neighbor could be on rental assistance and their utilities are cut off, and if the police come, they will take their children away. They could lose their rental assistance. Someone could have a warrant and the breadwinner of the household could go to jail. There's so many different ways that we can do harm just using the we can unintentionally do harm using the structures set in place. So we look for different structures and harm reduction. And to do that, we change the narrative. So if you go to our website, which is AsburyParkTransformativeJustice.org, it's the whole thing, right?
I think it's AP,
yeah,
Transformative
okay.
Justice. Yeah.
I don't often go there, but if you go there, you'll see that we talk a lot about people coming home from prison. And for so many reasons, we largely focus on folks who are affected by the prison industrial complex, because the way that society thinks of them are criminals, right? When you think of someone in jail, you think, what did you do? 100% of the people in prison are humans. And I think it's really important that we think of them as humans first, and consider things that you did when you were a teenager that you didn't get caught for, right? That if you were young and black and in an urban place, you could have gotten life in prison for, right? There are things that I got away with. There are things that friends of mine have gotten away with just because you didn't get caught. And that's the difference between someone who has been in prison since they were 17 and is now 37, and is intended to be there for another 25 years. For something he did when he was 17, right? But he's a human and he made a mistake, and that narrative needs to be different. So that's a lot of what you see on our website is about what's the quote? No person is the worst thing that they've ever done. And I think it's important to maintain that understanding when we talk about any human, and maintain their humanity regardless of what that worst thing is. Anything else?
Well, I think just one, practical. So, for instance, there's a number that in Asbury Park where you can call us as an alternative to calling the police, and we have about 7 or 8 social workers volunteering for us, and we would come to someone's house and kind of start a de-escalation process. So that's one thing that we do.
The urge.
Oh, yes. So we do things like that, but then we also offer alternatives to the criminal justice system. So some people who, and then, trigger warning, I apologize, but some people who have experienced sexual assault will sometimes want to contact us because they've had hard experiences within jail or with the police, and so they feel more comfortable calling people that can do a community accountability process. So we do accountability processes for people with the person that perpetuated the violence, and we always say the person that perpetuated the violence, not the perpetuator, not just this person who is bad, right? And so we start a process where there'll be a circle with the survivor. We don't like to use the word victim, but with the survivor. And they will kind of tell us what they think justice would look like, how they would feel healing would look like for them and their community. And then mostly I am blessed with the process of to be the one who perpetuated the violence and to work with them in a circle about meeting the survivor's needs. And some people sometimes critique us for working with people who perpetuated violence, but when we really want to talk about changing the narrative, which I think Bryan Stevenson certainly does, is that even if someone did commit the crime and is guilty, we have to ask, why did they create the crime? Did we grow up in a world where we just learn about being cooperative and kind and mutual aid and about liberation for all people? I think maybe here the answer is yes, you did. I looked at your OWL program over there, and I was like, what, you're teaching your 7th and 8th graders this? This is amazing. So maybe if for folks who grew out here, the answer is no. And so we want to work with people and believe that they are not the worst thing they've ever did, and the transformation can happen. And also, the very practical purpose is that prison we really see as a punishment factory. This process we see as someone growing and healing, so that when they are back out in the world, they've learned to not do the things that they have done before. And a lot of times this process looks like a year or 2 long. We're in feminist circles if the person's a socialized male or male-identified person. And we work with them to unlearn the things that they've learned that thought were appropriate, so that way when they're in the world, that the world may be a safer place, that they will not do that again. Because often when people come out of prison, because they had to protect themselves, prisons are very violent. You most likely will experience sexual violence and physical injury. And so you have to protect yourself more. It's not a place where you could grow and learn and heal. So we want to create a place where you could grow and learn and heal so that our communities will also be safer. And then lastly, one of the things we are trying to do is encourage the arts within the prison system. And we have done one so far and are looking to do a second one, but we are in touch with people that are currently incarcerated, and we get art from them, and they mail it to us, and then we do an art show, and then we sell it for them and put the money into their commissary to make their stay inside a little bit easier and to make sure that they can, practice their creative practice. So lastly, just really want to thank you for having us here. We are a little bit more of a radical nonprofit, and I come from the Judeo-Christian faith, and I think sometimes it's a little bit much, sometimes the work what we do, but really we see our work as just as really loving our neighbor and trying to find freedom for all people. So thank you so much.
And while I was talking to Michelle, one of the things that we talked about was some of the violence that is going on in the world, and in the spirit of changing the narrative. I have a call to action, and I know that it is very difficult to watch the news sometimes. I know that it's very difficult to scroll social media and see awful things that are happening. And also, I know that settler colonialism has disappeared entire bloodlines of people, and the victor is who writes the narrative. Unless we witness, we have to witness what is happening so we can tell the truth, so that our children know the truth and they don't repeat the story. In the past, it was relatively easy to make things disappear and have whoever won tell the story and make the rest of the story go away. Now we have the ability to witness and watch and tell the truth, no matter who the victor is. So my call to action is to witness the lives of the people who are being disappeared right now. It is happening in the Congo, it is happening in Syria, and it is happening in Palestine. And we need to witness it so that we can tell the truth of what happened so it won't repeat. Thank you so much for having us.
Every week in this congregation, we are provided with an opportunity to practice generosity. This is your invitation to contribute to the well-being of our congregation and to our neighbors through the good works of organizations which receive half the monies collected each month. Our Share the Plate recipient for November is the Asbury Park Transformative Justice Project, which is creating community-run public safety units, especially trained to respond to mental health issues and other non-emergency crises. Giving community members an alternative to calling the police, APTJP is looking for volunteer social workers, grant writers, lawyers, or anyone who would like to help grow this community empowerment program. For those of you present here in the meeting house, plates will be passed by the ushers. You may also join this time of generosity via text, send your offering via mail, or charge your contribution online with a memo designating the amount to the Asbury Park Transformative Justice Project. Please give generously.
She calls out to the man on the street, "Sir, can you help me? It's cold and there's nowhere to sleep. Is there somewhere you can tell me?" He walks on, doesn't look back. He pretends he can't hear her, starts to whistle as he crosses the street. seems embarrassed to be there. Oh, think twice. It's just another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you, you and me in paradise. Just think about it. She calls out to the man on the street. He can see she's been crying. She's got blisters on the soles of her feet. She can't walk, but she's trying. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you, you and me in paradise. Just think about it. Won't you think about it? Whoa, think about it. Oh, Lord, is there nothing anybody can do? Oh, Lord, there must be something you can say. You can tell from the lines on her face. You can tell that she's been there, probably been moved on from every place, 'cause she didn't fit in there. Oh, think twice. It's just another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you, you and me in paradise. Just think about it. Oh, think about it. It's just another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, it's just another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, just think about it.
Thank you so much, Thomas. It was such a gift to have you here today singing. It means a lot to me. That song I used to hear a lot in my younger days, and I didn't really come to understand it until after some of the recent experiences that I had. I grew up in Michigan. We lived just a couple of short hours by car from the border crossing of the United States and Canada. There were two ways that you could cross the Detroit River. You could either take the Ambassador Bridge over the river where the views of both city skylines could be seen. In the daytime, the sunlight reflected off the river, and at night, the lights from the skyline did the same. I was fascinated by the architecture of this suspension bridge, which seemed to be held up by nothing more than a lot of wind and the hopes and prayers of the travelers who went across it. Or, if you were feeling brave, you could take the Windsor Tunnel under the river. And as you drove through, you'd see the water coming down the walls. And when you got to the part that was the line between Canada and Michigan, water often poured from the ceiling. It was not my favorite way to go, for sure. It took about the same time to cross in both of those places, and it was the driver who made the decision. And that day, we were going to take the tunnel. Little Michelle was not pleased because she wasn't getting her way. I preferred the bridge. But as we sat in traffic, I noticed a man on the corner right before the entrance of the tunnel. He was white. He was sitting in a wheelchair. It was bitter cold outside. He was wearing an army green military jacket. It was well worn, and a winter hat. His clothing and his face was dirty. His long hair poked from underneath the hat, and his gray, scraggly beard covered his face. I don't remember what kind of pants he wore, only that he had no legs. He held a cardboard sign in a plastic container with a few coins in it. And the sign read, "Homeless veteran, hungry, please help. God bless you." And in the corner, he had drawn an American flag. I don't remember how old I was, but it was probably elementary school, and I suggested that we give him the change from the center console of our car. My father told me no. He told me that that man was a con man, a beggar. He told me that he probably had more money than we did, and that his legs were probably tucked underneath him to make people feel sorry for him, to give them their money. When the man wasn't looking my way, I stared, trying to find out where he could possibly be hiding his legs in that chair. I wondered, could this person really have more money than we did? Before long, traffic started moving. We left the man behind, but the memory has stayed with me. When I went to college, I knew that I was called to be a helper. The more I learned about the world and how fair it was, the stronger my desire to help got. I earned a degree in criminal justice and criminology. I was ambitious and idealistic. I told my professor that I was going to change the prison system from the inside. Just me, I was going to do it all by myself. My first professional job after college was working in a medium security treatment facility for adjudicated youth. I never wondered why the only youth in our care in the group that we worked with, that there was only one who was white. And that child was going back to his family. The other 14 were not so lucky. I ended up working in group homes, eventually landing in Philadelphia with a job as a social worker with children and families. I went into homes to assess safety for the children, and I helped resource families with the goal of keeping them together. But that wasn't always the reality. I saw a lot in those years as a social worker. And my boss, she got a kick out of my idealism. Whenever I would leave the office to go and do the field work, I would say, I was going out to change the world, or to save the world, one family at a time. There is a saying that goes, you don't know what you don't know. The phrase means that essentially there are gaps in our knowledge, but often we don't even know that there are gaps. It wasn't until I entered the religious education programming, the religious education program at the Unitarian Universalists Association, and started to work on the competency of anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multiculturalism, that I started to see there was a lot I didn't know about the world. I sometimes wonder if I would have made different choices in my work. Could I have been more effective? Could I have helped more people if I had known about the ways of racism and oppression? And then I started to realize that most of the classes that I took in all levels of education only skimmed the surface of class and race. The history that I had been taught in the Catholic schools that I attended left out important events in underrepresented communities. Or it paints an entirely different picture, a whitewashed picture. Whitewashed history leaves out minority and marginalized communities. It hides the truth. If I'm being honest, when I started this education, I didn't understand the term white privilege, which is a societal privilege that benefits white people over non-white, particularly if they're in circumstances, and otherwise under the same circumstances, socially, politically, and economically. Somehow, my own marginalized identity as a lesbian had to count for something. Somehow, even if it was just a little bit, I felt like I understood what people were going through. I thought racism was a hateful personal belief that caused people to hate and discriminate against people based on the color of their skin. And I knew for certain that that was not inside me. Then I learned that racism was a systemic problem that happens when structures or processes are carried out by groups with power, such as governments, businesses, even schools. And racism differs from bias, which is a conscious or unconscious prejudice against an individual or a group based on identity. I took this knowledge and understanding that I had gained over the years with me as I began. Hello? Hello? Is it better? Okay. I'll use the pulpit. I took this knowledge and understanding that I had gained over the years with me as I began a 6-month placement as a student chaplain at Trinity Episcopal Church's Center for Community, a new name formerly known as Social Justice at Trinity in Asbury Park. You see, I've been taking classes at Meadville Lombard Theological School, a UU Divinity School, to obtain my Master's in Divinity degree. And one unit of clinical pastoral education, or CPE as it's known, is required for the degree. CPE is a form of theological education focusing on pastoral care and counseling. It provides hands-on experience and skill development, and is typically completed in healthcare settings such as hospitals or hospice under the guidance of a certified educator. CPE encourages participants to engage in self-reflection and personal growth. The intensive nature of the program, including peer group interactions and supervision, fosters self-awareness and a deeper understanding of one's own beliefs, values, and biases. I knew that healthcare was not where I needed to be. I needed to be somewhere where I could practice my Unitarian Universalist faith through a commitment to the eighth principle, which invites us on a journey towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Love is at the heart of my ministry as a Unitarian Universalist, and it serves as a guiding theological value that informs every aspect of my work. Within this diverse and inclusive faith tradition, love takes on a multifaceted meaning that transcends religious dogma, emphasizing every individual's inherent worth and dignity. This radically inclusive love calls me to honor the humanity in every person, regardless of their background, beliefs, or identity, and it was central to my CPE experience. Now, the first meeting of my CPE cohort, which was a multi-faith group of 6 other people with a Unitarian Universalist educator, Reverend Karen Hutt. Reverend Karen Hutt is, if not the only, one of very few, but I think only, Black Unitarian Universalist CPE educators. And most Unitarian Universalists don't get the opportunity to learn how to do this work with other UUs, especially not with a UU educator. Unitarian Universalism is a small denomination, and many of the educators out there and the students in these environments are Christian. My first meeting with Reverend Hutt had to be rescheduled and happened to land on the date of last year's coming of age retreat. So I missed it. And then 2 days later, I had an interview with Derek to see if I was a good match for Trinity, and if I could accomplish the goals of CPE by volunteering in the food and housing justice programs. To my knowledge, I'm the first person to have come with this request to complete hours like this in the program, to offer spiritual caregiving as a student chaplain. When Derek asked me what my job would be, how did I hope to engage, and what was I seeking to learn, honestly, I had no idea. I missed the meeting, and I didn't know. But I knew in my heart that that was where I needed to be. My first day, I was nervous about my own uncertainty of the role. And to center myself as I was driving in that morning, I listened to the hymn, "Wake Now My Senses," on repeat to help ground me. That's the hymn that we heard this morning. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now, my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. I felt like that was all I needed to know. And I went in, and my first day went just fine. Derek and Reverend Hutt had told me before I started that it was going to take time to build trust in this community. I knew they were right, and I understood why. After that first day, I came home, and I didn't have a whole lot to say. But as I was sitting on the couch with my family, I was replaying these brief encounters that I had had with people. And suddenly, I just burst into tears. I didn't even feel it coming. I hadn't spoken to anyone in my role as a chaplain yet, but what I experienced was a keen awareness that many did not perceive me as a safe person. I was rattled, especially when I noticed that many of the Black men who encountered me gave me generous space as I walked through the room. I've always wanted to part a sea, but not quite like that. When they spoke to me, their body posture changed, usually putting their hands behind their back to assume a non-threatening position. During supervision, Reverend Karen kept telling me that I had to be authentic, be real. And I didn't come to understand what that meant until much later. My role was to listen without judgment, to see beyond the circumstances that someone was experiencing, to listen, and to find their humanity. The capacity for storytelling is where humanness is formed, and it often lies at the heart of the healing process. Through deep listening, we can learn from how people frame and tell the stories of their lives, conveying feelings and emotions and circumstances. The Center for Study of Lives at Northwestern University puts forth 4 core themes that they see that come up in American culture, which tell about a storyteller's reconstructed past, perceived present, and anticipated future. Listening for themes of agency, communion, redemption, and contamination started to give me a language to help repattern the narratives of lives. For example, in one encounter, I heard a loss of agency. I heard that a lot. A loss of power, of no control over your own circumstances. I was speaking with someone who who was talking about a disability that they had that was contributing to the person feeling like they had no purpose in life. And so together we explored other sources of purpose and community, reframing the story and offering hope. I took the long way home those first few weeks of CPE, thinking about the suffering I was bearing witness to. My cohort told me that I was one of the most self-aware people that they had ever met. I was constantly examining my own social location, my beliefs and identities, and frankly, it led me to feel quite hopeless. I told my cohort that I don't know how to help someone find hope when I haven't experienced most of the things that they had experienced. I watched and I could see the systems in our country that were designed to keep people in poverty. Reverend Karen wisely told me to stop trying to fix things, because the truth was, there was nothing there that I could fix. She told me to let go of the outcomes, to be with people in their suffering and in their joys, to be the person who reminds them that they are seen, they are human, imperfect, valuable, and loved. So I made a decision to approach CPE by leaning into the experience with humility, vulnerability, and authenticity. I came to class meetings and supervision with questions, with verbatims, and honest reflections about my experiences at the site. The individuals that I served as a chaplain are often reduced to negative stereotypes and blamed for their fate in life. Therefore, I knew it was essential for me to interrogate my thoughts, to understand when unrealized or unquestioned bias was showing up in these caring encounters. I asked the group and my supervisor, what did I need to know about a person to care for them while honoring their journey? It felt important to respect how they shared their stories and not lead the conversation from a place of curiosity or that desire to fix. I asked questions of my cohort like, do I need to know the nature of somebody's disability to help them find meaning in life? Do I need to inquire about the dark path an individual's on to help them reconnect with their faith and find hope? In most cases, the answer was no. In the examples, the experiences that led me to hopelessness were irrelevant to finding hope and faith in the present. So I let go, and one day I found myself sitting across the table, looking into the eyes of another human being. The connection between us was more powerful than anything else I had experienced. Bryan Stevenson offered UUs a map for creating a more just world. When we get proximate, we see the transformative power of that generous hope, the hope that propels us to step closer, to be present, and to truly see the struggles of fellow beings. The narratives that separate us and perpetuate injustice began to fade. And hope is all we have sometimes. Now, my last day there was last Saturday. I was in the kitchen cutting lasagna for the meal when the announcement was made that it was my last day. And to be honest, I had been dreading the announcement, and so I was sort of glad when I realized it had already been made, because saying goodbye is not something that I enjoy. Change is constant in life. Being able to navigate transitions is something a religious professional should have experience with. And so before me was another opportunity to practice. For the next hour, people approached me to share their gratitude, to ask me what's next on my journey, and to say goodbye. As things were winding down, everybody was almost gone. This amazing individual who I've had the honor of hearing their life story, essentially, that had been collected over the 80 years on this planet. She approached me and she gently put her hands on my ears and said, "Now, my dear, you can rest your ears. Don't ever forget how important it is for you to take care of yourself, Michelle. You won't be good for anybody if you don't take care of yourself first." The other person standing with her thanked me for spending time with them. She told me I was special. She told me that I was the only person who listened to them, that they were going to miss me. Now, this comment about being the only person that ever listened to them, I know this person, and I know that's not true. There are a lot of really loving, caring individuals, just like Derek, that are there and that are listening. But it was my job to listen. I didn't have to do the housing. I didn't have to do the lunch. My whole purpose was to be there and to listen. And the other staff members and volunteers at Trinity simply don't have time to do that because they're helping people find housing, and they're feeding people, and they're meeting the immediate needs that they have. I replied and said, it was such a blessing to be with this community, and I've learned so much while I was here. My reply apparently came as a shock as she uttered loudly, "You learned from us? What could you have possibly learned from us?" How I wish I could have articulated that day just how much I learned. Now both of us were in shock, but I just knew that it was such a privilege for me to be there, for them to allow me into their lives, to have their trust. There was one day, just one more short story, where it was a scheduling thing that had happened. It was 90 degrees and the lunch had to be outside. So I found myself sitting out in front of the church with everybody while they were waiting for lunch to be served. Someone asked me if they could speak to me in their office, and I was like, of course. I wasn't sure where their office was. It turned out to be around the corner next to the tree in front of the church. It was a lovely office. We talked, And when we came back, as I sat among the group, someone looked at me and said, "You know, you're one of us now." It was kind of funny, and it was such a compliment, because it meant that I had earned their trust, that they and I were not seeing the differences between us. We were sharing our common humanity. Our congregations are places where we get to practice being human in ways where we can navigate both the challenges as well as the joys of life. It's the place where we can practice getting it wrong and where we can practice getting it right. Here at UUCMC, we create community that allows that kind of growth and transformation. We transform ourselves. This process that I went through was the faith development experience of my life. And through it, I was truly transformed. And once we are able to begin to transform ourselves, that's when we can work to transform the world. And so I invite you today to look within your hearts and to think about what are your next steps on the journey towards transformation of yourself. May we all be transformed in the loving embrace of this community, and may we all go out and do what we can to be a part of change and making a difference. May it be so. Our meditation today is called a meditation on courage and vulnerability by Reverend Douglas Taylor. I'm learning to let down my guard. We all know about the deep instinct to respond to difficulty and stress with either fight or flight, with force or swift retreat, with decisive attack or prompt withdrawal. When faced with stress and difficulty or challenge, I'm learning to let my guard down. I'm learning to be vulnerable. I'm seeking the courage to be open. I would have my vulnerability be a choice made from my courage rather than my fear. I would have my vulnerability be my strength. May my strength be not found in a hard shell of defense or a sharp weapon of attack. May my strength instead be found in an open stance of kindness and empathy, like a tree bending gracefully in the windstorm. May my strength be found in a willingness to join in the suffering of others, like a forest of trees together in the storm. May I choose to be receptive rather than protected, sharing rather than shielded. In this way, may I face my own suffering and the suffering of others with a nimble capacity to respond with compassion. In this way, may vulnerability be an invitation for others to meet me in the open field with a yearning for understanding and peace. I know this is a risk. I know I may be hurt. I know things may not go well. But still, I will seek the courage to set aside the closed fists, the stinging retort, the barbed judgment of others. I will seek within myself the strength to stand exposed and unguarded before the world, in the wind, open to difficulty. Not because I cannot be any other way, but because I have chosen to be this better way. I'm still learning to be vulnerable. I seek the courage to be so vulnerable. May I have others who can help me be so courageous. May my example serve others as well as myself. And may my strength be our courage. May my strength be our strength in sharing this life openly with others. May it be so, and amen. And now, if you'll please rise in body or spirit and sing with me hymn number 1028, The Fire of Commitment. I'd like to invite David Anderson to join me at the pulpit. I am so grateful that David was able to join us today. I met David at Trinity, where he comes and helps and volunteers, often playing music for people and taking food to the elderly. And David did some sharing with me that was really an honor. I'll leave it there. David's an artist. He's a writer. His drawings are amazing. And he's come here today to share with us closing words that he wrote himself about hope and trauma recovery.
As you already know, my name is David Anderson. I'm a survivor of gun violence. When I like to start out saying things, I was living my life backwards. When I say backwards, instead of living life to the fullest and being happy, I was letting the trauma, the aggression, the plot on revenge just take me deeper down that hole. So 4 suicide attempts and 3 failed attempts to get revenge. So I was being selfish, not worried about anybody else, and I wasn't putting my best foot forward. The name of the poem is called Even on Your Best Day, Put Your Best Foot Forward. Even on your best day, put your best foot forward. What's the true definition of trauma recovery? Only God knows the answer to that. Things are different for each human being. We all deal with these factors of life alike, but similar. In my case, it took me many, many years to put my best foot forward. Even when you feel like giving up, put your best foot forward. Life can get you down to the lowest of lows. Take that strength to give up easily and break that chain. Think about the things you are grateful for, but start small. Turn I can't do into I'm going to. I'm a survivor of gun violence. My younger brother was not so fortunate. I carry the blade of guilt which weighs so heavy. 4 failed suicide attempts, and I'm still here. Not only today, but every day. Even on the worst days, put your best foot forward. And that ends the little segment that I wrote. But it took me a long time to realize and be grateful for the things that I had. And I was looking for something that I knew that I wasn't going to be able to obtain or achieve. The negative things. And then once, it took me a long time to, sorry about that. It took me a long time to flip over that light switch. You know, now I like to see people being helped, and, you know, like She Witness, you know, I help people come play the music, and, you know, Derek allows me to do that, to come over. And I like to volunteer because life is too short. And, you know, me dwelling in that negativity, it was slowly deteriorating my health, my mental state. And mental health is a really big issue that we have to take care of, no matter who you are. They might put these certain things in statistics and everything like that, but we're all human. We just deal with it differently. So anybody can classify or say anything. It's just how you handle and adjust with things. You can either go backwards or you can move forward. And my plan, it was moving backwards, but now I'd rather just move forward and be successful and help people along the journey, you know, and love the Lord as I do, as you people look like you do too. As I said that, I've seen a lot of people smiling, so yeah, just on the best day, you know, just continue to put your best foot forward. Even when you're, you know, you might seem like this is the last day you're gonna live or whatever, just, you know, take that deep breath, because you have to take that strength and put your best foot forward. It's easy to say no and it's easy to give up, but no, don't do it. Just keep moving forward. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, go and be a blessing to the world and go in peace.